Hello and welcome to my new video about the Jobava London System. Today I want to present you a tactic that was shown in the game Nikolas Lubbe against Vincent Keymer in the Blitz game in 2020. What's interesting about the tactic is that it's nearly unknown even among Jobava London System players. What I mean is that the position you can see on the board was already reached 24 times on Lichess, but only 3 players found the right move for white, the winning move. Before I show you the tactic, I want to introduce both players to you. On the white side we have Nikolas Lubbe. He's a real hero of the Jobava London System. He played it in many over-the-board games and online games, and he even created his own opening course. And I learned quite a lot from the course, so I will put the link down below in the video description. If you're a German-speaking chess player and you want to know more about the Jobava, then you probably should check out his course. It's a really great course. One thing you should know is that he refuses to name it the Jobava London System. He himself named it Baadur, named after his youth coach who taught it to him when he was a kid. On the black side we have Vincent Keymer, and he's the youngest German grandmaster ever, so he's definitely nobody you can easily beat. But as you can see, he found himself in a worse position, and you can see the critical position already on the board. It's right to move and win, but take your time. Before we just jump right into the tactic, I of course want to show you how to reach the position and what's important to know. So without further ado, it's time to checkmate. So the game started with the moves d4, knight f6, knight c3, d5, bishop f4, reaching our typical starting position of the Jobava London System. And here black responded with bishop f5, a typical move. And white's main plan in this position is now to go for f3, g4, h4, gaining some space on the king's side and attacking black's light squared bishop. And this is exactly what Lubbe did. He went for f3 immediately, e6, g4, bishop g6, h4. And in this position black has to make a choice. You can go either h6 or h5. And Keymer decided to go for h5. Lubbe pushed his pawn to g5 and the knight retreated to d7. e3, and here black played a6. a6 is the main move on the master level, and on club player level it's the third most common option, but it's nearly as often played as the other main moves such as bishop d6 and c5. You may want to know why a6. Well, the idea is quite simple. Black wants to play c5, but before he wants to prevent us from going knight to b5. What I mean, it becomes clear if black goes c5 immediately, because then we can simply just play knight b5 and we are threatening knight to c7 check, winning the rook. Oops. The only move to prevent us from doing so is actually knight to a6. But now black has a problem, because our knight is pretty strong on b5 and black just can't get rid of it. Because the only move to get rid of it would be a6, but a6 is blocked by the knight, and if the knight moves away then our knight can jump to c7 again. So it's quite an unpleasant position for black, and just to show you some more moves, game could continue with c3, bishop e7, bishop g6, g3 I meant, and here white has a pretty easy play. He will develop his knight to h3, coming to f4. If necessary, he can protect his knight on b4 on b5 with a4. And just after the knight went to f4 and gave the bishop on g6 a little kick, then we are ready to play bishop d3. Let's make it blue, so this is a secondary plan. Trading light squared bishops, and yeah, white is just dominant, and black has problems because he's cramped on the king side, he can't attack on the queen side, and even the center is in our control, so white's clearly better in this position. This is why masters prefer to go a6, just to prevent us from going knight to b5. But that's no problem for us. We go for bishop d3, and black usually trades the bishops. And in this position, white has to make a choice, whether to take the bishop with the pawn or with the queen. In the game, white took with the queen, and I think that this is the right decision. There are some similar positions where it's better to take with the pawn. For example, if black wouldn't have gone h5 but h6 at move 6, I guess. Yeah, at move 6, then it would be better to take with the pawn. But in this concrete position with pawn on h5 and our pawn on g5 and the knight on d7, it's best to take with the queen. If we take with the pawn, then game could continue with c5, takes, d4, gaining tempo, bishop e7, knight g2, knight c6, king f2, castling, rook c1, g6, blocking all our activity on the king side. And after queen b3 and knight b6, I think that black is better because he got a nice c4 square for his knights. And another plan he could have is exchanging dark squared bishops to bring the queen to d6 and probably push e5 at a certain moment. This is not to my taste, and that's why I believe that Lubbe played the right move and he went for queen takes d3. Here black has some options. One is a passive g6, but more common is the move that Keymer played, and this is the aggressive c5. And now things get spicy. Lubbe continued with g6, spoiling black's pawn structure right away. And of course, black is not allowed to take the pawn, because this would lead to a very beautiful mate in 3. Just take with the queen, the king has to move to e7, and now here comes the piece sacrifice, knight takes d5 check. Only move is to take the knight, and then it's mate with the bishop. Of course, your opponent won't blunder this, but I think this is a beautiful mate, and I just wanted to show it. So instead, black will most likely play f6, and this is what Keymer did in the game. And white should just simply cast queenside. Keymer played knight c6, and white continued with knight g2 e2. And here Vincent Keymer made a mistake. He played a move b5. And at a first glance, it looks like an absolute logical move, and this is why many players already played this move. I mean, black wants to attack our king on the queen side, and b5 is just the way to do it. But this runs into concrete problems. So I would advise you to pause the video and think about the position and find the right move for white to win this game. I give you 3 seconds to pause the video. 1, 2, 3. Well, I hope you all find the solution. If not, I'll just give you a little hint and then you can try again. So my hint for this position would be that it's not a tactic where you just play 2 or 3 moves and then you're up in material or something. No. You will sacrifice material and you won't gain it back for the next 10 or 20 moves. But black is busted. Believe it or not, black is just simply busted. So think about a move that would give you a huge attack. Even if you don't know, even if you're not able to calculate all the variations. Think about a move that gives you a huge attack. I give you another 3 seconds to pause the video if you need to. 1, 2, 3. Well, I hope you all found the solution. If not, the right move is knight takes d5. exclamation. Well, what's the problem with the move, you may ask? Well, Black more or less has to take it with the pawn. And here comes the strong move, queen to f5. And this leads to many problems for Black. For example, right now the pawn is hanging. We are also threatening moves as queen to e6 check. We have options of capturing this pawn, freeing up our rook, and even e4 at some point is on the agenda. So how could this continue? Well, in the game, Keymer played knight to e7. And according to the engine, this is actually a mistake. I mean, position is already quite hard and there are not many good moves, but the engine prefers to do knight d to b8. And I don't want to overload the video, but I just give you some one quick line. For more detail, just see my Lichess study. I did a Lichess study for this variation, and I will put the link down below in the video description, so you just can check it out. But here just a fast line. We just simply take the bishop, the rook has to recapture, or queen gives a check, knight e7 because the knight was attacked, so queen e7 wouldn't be an option. Queen f7 check, king d7. Now we take the pawn on c5, threatening rook takes d5 check, so the king has to move. We go for e4. He cannot take because, oops, our rook would take the queen off. Queen d7, knight f4, knight c6, and here comes the rook. Queens are traded off the board, and now we are threatening knight to g6. And if the rook has to move, then we could take the bishop. This is why Black has to move his king to protect the bishop with the other rook on b8. And here we just simply play knight rook h to g1, renewing the threat of knight to g6. And I know if you just count the material, you could say, okay, we are down a bishop for some pawns. Is this really enough? But if you put it on an engine, really, this is crushing. It's just simply one for white. To gain a feeling for the position, I would just advise you to put this on an engine and play it for yourself. Or just take the black pieces and try to defend against the engine. So you see that this is horrible and absolutely lost for black. So even the better move, knight d to b8, would be a horrible scenario. But black played knight to e7. And here, Lubbe played queen to e6, threatening mate in 1 on f7. So black has to do something about it. And again, the best move would have been knight d to b8. But after after some more moves like d takes c5, queen d7, queen f7 check, king d8, e4, threatening to take on d5. I guess you already get a feeling for it. It will be always the same moves that white has in his arsenal, so it's nothing new. King c8, rook h to e1, knight e to c6, and now we just simply take off the pawn on d5. And even if black trades the queens, both two pawns are huge. They are just simply winning. I don't want to go too deep in this variation. As you probably notice, I feel it hard to show you everything. But this is the problem with this tactic. It's winning for white, but black has many options. I just want to show you one more short line. If black should take the pawn on c5, then you just simply take the knight. And after knight takes c6 and knight g3, you are up a pawn and you're dominating. Your rooks are on your open d and e file. Your bishop is great placed. Your knight can jump into f5 or e4. You're just dominating. Okay. More variations in the Lichess study. Don't want to go too deep in this. In the game, black played queen to b6, and here white continues with queen to f7 check, king to d8, and again the move d takes c5, opening the line for the rook. And yeah, here black took with the queen, but even if he takes with the knight, this doesn't help either because of rook takes d5, and if the knight takes the rook, then queen takes knight, check, attacking the rook at the same time. And a possible continuation would be bishop to d6, queen takes a8 check, king c7, bishop takes d6 check, queen takes d6, and queen takes h8, and we're up a rook 2 pawns, and we are clearly winning. Everything is hanging, not to mention that this pawn is pretty strong. We're up a rook. It's just completely busted for black. So instead, black took with the queen. And here, white played the move knight to d4. It's a logical move because we're threatening now knight to e6 check. Oops. Check, and winning the queen. So black played king to c8, and here white responded with queen e8 check. The king has to go to b7. We can take the knight, and if you count material, you will find that we're already up a pawn. But I mean, this is not just being a pawn up. This is about this is clearly winning, right? Game continued with king to b6, and here white played the move queen to e6 check. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with this move, but if I have to make improvement over Lubbe, then I would just simply play the move a4. It's not the top engine choice, but it's just simply very easy to win because our threat is crystal clear. We just want to play a5 check. The king has to take, and then we have knight to d3 check, winning the queen, and being up a queen. This is simply one game. So what can white do in this black do in this position? Well, he could go for b takes a4 to stop the threat. Then we have rook to d3, threatening rook to c3, attacking the queen and crushing through. But what can black do? There's not much. Best move according to the engine is already knight to f5, but if that's your best move, then you're just simply lost. Just showing you some more moves. Rook to c3, queen to e7, rook c6, king a5, bishop c7 check, king b4, and c3 checkmate. Another option in this position would be to go a5 to stop our threat of a5, and then we just simply go bishop d6, taking the queen. Queen has to go to c4. Queen c8 doesn't help because of queen takes b5, king a7, bishop c5, and we're winning the queen. So queen to c4, g3, queen c3, and again queen takes b5 and winning the queen. Simply won. So you can see there's not much black could do. Another try would be rook c8, but as I just mentioned, just simply go for a5 check, winning the queen again. This would be my improvement. White instead played queen to e6, and don't get me wrong, engine still thinks it's +8, it's clearly winning for white, but now after knight c6, rook to d3, b4, and some trades, yeah, I mean, this position is still clearly one for white. He's up 2 pawns, and yeah, but unfortunately black hold the draw. It was a blitz game after all. I guess Nikolas got in some time trouble, and yeah, in the end both players had to agree to a draw. Before I start the video, I just want to mention one more thing. If we go back in the game up to move, well, what is it? 12 in this position. It's not so common, but it was played as well. There are players who played in this position in move b5. And it's again a mistake. The tactic I just showed you after knight c6, knight g2, b5, and knight takes d5 just works as well in this position. I did some more moves in my Lichess study about this variation, but I don't want to go in too much detail on this place. Just check it out for yourself. We have the same plans as in the main line. So I hope you learned something. I hope you liked today's video. If you did, please let me know in the comments and don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. So see you next time when it's again time to checkmate.